I'm Carol Yelverton. Welcome to Hungry for Travel. There's a reason Chile has been named South America's leading travel destination. From busy Santiago to the Arctic wonders of Patagonia, there's an incredible amount to do, see, and eat there. Empanadas are one of the country's signature dishes. And while many countries make empanadas, these are different in lots of delicious ways. Let me show you why and how. So we're going to start with onions. And let me just say, too, that empanadas are little meat pies. So if you haven't had one before, you're in for a real treat. Again, there are lots of different Latino cultures, but here, Chile does them in an extra special way. So we're starting with shredded, very finely shredded onions. And what you have to do with these onions is you have to cook them down. So these have been in here for over a half hour, just cooking on a low heat until they're beautifully browned, caramelized, soft, and they're just aromatic. So none of that harsh onion scent is on them, but just this sweet aromatic component of nice sweet onions. So what we're going to do is add our spices. And I always like to add spices before I add the meat so everything gets mixed up really well. And then the meat can come in and become the component that we start to add to. So I have some cumin. I'm going to throw that in here. I have some oregano. I just have a 1/4 teaspoon of oregano because a little oregano goes a long, long way. And if you have just a hint of it, it's a very nice flavor in dishes. But if you add too much, it gets a little overwhelming. I've got about a tablespoon of paprika in here. I had about a teaspoon of cumin, by the way, if you're taking notes on this. And then I'm going to add some chili powder. Again, that's about a teaspoon. So we're going to get that in, and we'll just mix it up. And these onions sauteed in vegetable oil, and so, that's all sinking in here. We're going to have fat from the beef, so I don't want to add a lot more, oil to it. So we're just going to mix these together, and then we're going to add some really special components. So I've got garlic, got about a clove of garlic in here. And, of course, don't you love when you add the garlic when you're cooking, because you have the onions, they're all done, and then you put the garlic in at the last minute so that you don't burn it. You don't want that burnt taste to it, but you just love when it kind of releases. So I let it cook for a little bit just to release those flavors. Then walnuts. Walnuts, this has always been kind of my little secret go-to for empanadas. Chile grows beautiful, beautiful, beautiful walnuts, and so it's perfect to put them in here. So I'm putting in about 2 tablespoons, and this is going to thicken up our mixture too. So it kind of has double purposes. Instead of using flour, we use the ground walnuts, and then it adds, beautiful texture, beautiful flavor, earthy, and so nice. Then here, this is again another little, fun thing to put in. I take about half a cup or 3 tablespoons of dried raisins, and then I soak them in warm water for about 10 minutes. That opens them up, it plumps them up, and then when they go in here, they're really ready, to just get going. I'm going to turn the heat up now too, because we're almost ready to add our beef, and so I want to really start sauteing when we put that in. I'll just finish here with our raisins. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of salt. Let me just get that in. And then I've got some ground pepper, because we always love ground pepper. Why not, right? So I've got about, 10, 12 shakes of ground pepper. So that's going in here. We'll let that all come together very nicely. Let that all do its thing and cook up. And then, you know what? I've got to get this garlic in here, because that sometimes it stays on the tongs. I love, love, love to cook with tongs all the time. But sometimes the food can stay on, so you just have to keep an eye on that. But you can manipulate the food so much more easily with tongs. It's really, I like the control I get from the tongs. So here's our ground beef. We're going to add that in and let this cook. Now, I make empanadas in 2 steps, because when you put this mixture together, it's so incredibly delicious. And I really want it to cook up, and then I let it sit for, the day. I may make it in the morning, or I might make it the day before. And so when I'm doing that, I put it in the fridge, I let it cook, and then once the meat's all ground up and all set, goes in there, and then the flavors come together, and it tastes so much better because it's had that opportunity. So I'm going to just take this off the heat now, because I already have a mixture all made up that I actually made last night. Same idea. So this is going to taste really beautiful. the flavors will have melded together in all the right ways. So now we're going to make our dough. And there are a couple of different things we're going to do here. Again, things I found that make an empanada dough really special and wonderfully tasty. So again, distinct in Chile and in the empanada is the raisins we've got in there and the walnuts. There's kind of a different twist on this, and it provides a wonderful, wonderful flavor. You can add a little beef broth if you want. I find that a little too heavy, and I like kind of this lighter texture of it. But if it feels like it's too dry, I don't think it is, but you know, if you are cooking and it feels a little dry, just add a touch of water, you know, and that'll kind of loosen it up. So if you need to do that, go for it. So our dough is here. I have put 5 cups of flour into the food processor with about a teaspoon of salt. And all we're going to do is just mix it, let it come together. Okay, and once it's done that, then it's time to add our fat to it. And now I'm doing a little bit of a different ratio. A lot of times you'll do, say, a half a cup of butter and a half a cup of shortening or all shortening. I have found that light cream instead of milk gives it this amazing texture and taste and kind of a tender quality to it. So I am not putting as much fat in here as I would if I was just making a typical dough. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start this going, and I'm going to integrate butter. Put all the butter in. So this is a half a cup of butter. It's going right in here. Got to move it all in. All right, here we go. And then again, this is a 1/4 cup of vegetable shortening, so it's less shortening than you typically use. And we're moving that in. All right. So then this is going to come together for a while. You know, we want the butter to integrate into the flour mixture so that you have kind of those little pea-sized pieces of shortening and butter mixed in with the dough, because that's where you create the air pockets and you get a beautiful flaky flavor to this. So I typically let this go for a lot longer. Let me just turn this off because it's so darn loud. I typically let this go for a lot longer because I want to let everything get integrated, you know, in the processor. You can certainly mix by hand too. I just find this really mixes well, and I like the texture and the quality of what I get in the dough. So I add 2 other things here. I have a beaten egg that's going to go in. And then, again, as I say, I have this cup of light cream. So we'll continue to mix. Get those in, they're going, and again, we'll give it more time so it really, really comes together. So I've shown you that, and now I want you to take a look at what the finished product is going to look like in terms of the dough. So I'm going to move some things off, so bear with me, because I want to make sure that our overhead camera can get these food shots, because I think it really helps when you're kind of, you know, learning how to do something. And if you're new to empanadas, this is actually a really good way to do it. So once the dough comes out, and I kind of mix it around a little bit with my hands, knead it a little bit, then I roll it into a flat dough, rectangle, then I roll it up. And the idea with empanadas is that once it's rolled up, you divide it into 6 pieces. So I've kind of got this already scored for you. I love using a serrated knife when I'm doing this because the cutting just goes a lot easier. Nothing sticks the way it does with a regular knife. So these are all going to be formed into empanadas. So what I've done here is I've already kind of played with one. I've rolled it out a little bit. You press it down with your hand. You really let it get flat. And then I'm going to actually turn this into a 7-inch diameter circle. So we have to start doing this with the rolling pin, and I want to be careful because I don't want the dough to break. I see this is breaking a little bit. I'm just going to have some water here. I'm just going to help it just kind of stay together. So there, and then keep rolling it out in a circle, and more dough. See, this needed more water. This original dough needed a little bit more liquid, so that's a good thing for me to know. Typically it comes out fine, but of course I'm doing it on TV, so here we go. And you know, sometimes it's different in terms of climate, humidity in the air, I mean, all kinds of reasons that can happen. So just have to go with it. And again, fix as we can fix. And then this is a 7-inch diameter bowl. So if you look at this, this is 7 inches across, okay? So the idea here is that I put this here, and we're going to cut a nice circle out with my knife here. And then this is going to become the dough that we will use for our filling. All right, here we go. And voila! Now what I want to do is make sure I can move it around. I've got more flour here because I want to make sure that this is not going to become dry. The worst thing is kind of when you're working with dough and it sticks to the bottom, so you always want to make sure that that's not going to happen. So here's our finished Pinot. It's called Pinot in Chilean culture. So this is the finished beef product, and again, it's got all our good ingredients in there. It's come together. It's good to go. And so we start with like a small amount here. Put a little bit in. You don't want to overstuff it because you know, it'll break when you're trying to put it together. And then one of the little surprises is hard-boiled egg. So that goes in here. Again, it's kind of like when you don't expect it, right? And 2 olives go in, like that. All right, and then we're gonna fold it over here, and I got my water. I really wanna work with the water on the edges here, just a little. You don't want a lot, but we want the dough to seal, so that's why we use the edges on here with some water on them. And then we're really gonna do a fold over here so that everything stays in place. And I hope you can, let me get that out of the way so you can see. And so then the idea is that we're pressing this all together, okay, to make our empanada. Beautiful, beautiful empanada. Okay. Now, in Chile, we don't stop here when we're rolling the dough out and putting it together because Chileans have a different way of folding their empanadas. So I want to show you that. So first what we're going to do, take a little more water, put it on the sides here, okay, and then we're going to fold this like that. So that's a very different way of having an empanada where you have this fold here, and it's actually called a triangle, although it doesn't quite have a triangle shape. And let me just get a little towel here. I don't want to overdo. There we go. Just a little water to put it together like that, okay? So we put that together on the sides, and then in the front, we're going to tuck it in like that. So it really has a, look at that, it's just a really different shape. Let me get the water there. And so that's fun. And then the crust has this kind of fun like texture to it in the front because, you know, as you start eating it, you have kind of the layers of the dough, and then it's going to open up into all the wonderful surprises that you have inside. Now, I'm just going to grab a sheet pan here. Sorry, I had to go off camera there, just have a limited number of inches on the counter, and so I just want to make sure I show you every little bit of this. So I'm going to make 12 of these, obviously, because I cut out 12 pieces of dough, and I put it on parchment paper on a cookie sheet. And so that's going to give it a nice kind of finish when it cooks up. Again, there's a lot of fat in this, so we wouldn't want to put you know, any spray or oil on that. What I always think of this as is a party food. It's not the kind of food you eat every day, but it's one of those like great party foods. So what I do at the end is, this is egg yolk, only egg yolk. And I brush it with this. And the reason I like to use the egg yolk is that it creates this really beautiful, and we're hiding that from you, this really beautiful golden color on the finished product. So when you take it out of the oven, it just looks fantastic. And you know, I love this recipe, and I love this recipe for parties and food. This is a great dinner party recipe where you actually can get everybody in the kitchen and get everybody kind of like doing different stations, or, you know, making their own, have everything set up for them, and then everybody kind of has a stake in it, and they can add more of something that they want or less. And so it's really a fun way to get together with a group of friends. And then, of course, you get this tasty, delicious bunch of empanadas to finish with. So it's perfect. So when you open up your empanada, you're going to find a treasure trove of delights in here. You're going to have this delicious filling. It's going to have the raisins in it. It's going to have the walnuts in it, the spices, these really, you know, just wonderful spicy components to it. And then, of course, and let's show you our picture right now because I want you to see it. When you open it up, look at the treasures inside there, because you've got this puffy crust. You've got the meat. You've got, you know, just everything coming together. And when it's warm and you serve it warm, it's just like the most perfect thing in the world. Now, you can see there's this little sauce on the side, this little garnish. This is called Pobre. This is a Chilean hot sauce, and it's used on everything in Chile, and it's fantastic. And I'm going to show you how to do that next. This is just one of those special condiments. Once you've made it, it's addictive, and you're going to again, want to put it on everything you can find. First, though, here's a quick look at some of Chile's most spectacular wonders and her most important treasure, her people.
Imagine a place at the end of the world. Imagine a little paradise full of tremendous landscapes. Imagine feeling like the whole world is all yours. Breathe deeply. Then let your breath be taken away. Now, imagine the people who live here, people with stories, with their hearts and arms wide open. Chile is just like its people, just like its landscapes. Chile is open nature.
What beautiful people and what a gorgeous place Chile is. So let's get into this pobre. This is the hot sauce that you're going to fall in love with. Let's start with some just plain safflower oil and neutral oil. So we'll put some in our bowl. Then red wine vinegar. And that's one of the keys here because it creates this amazingly delicious flavor. Then I just have hot sauce itself, some red hot sauce. And again, go as bold or as quiet as you like to with that. I have garlic. We're going to add in here. This is a clove of garlic because everything's better with garlic, as we know. We're going to put in about a teaspoon of salt. Get that in there. And again, we're going to grind fresh black peppercorns, freshly ground peppercorns. We'll get some of those in. It's a chili sauce, so I think we can go with the pepper. Not a problem. All right, so again, I'm going to stir these kind of wet ingredients, the salt, all that together, and then we're going to add the rest of our flavors. And it's really simple to put this together too. Again, one of the keys here in Chilean cooking is that things are very, very finely cut. So here I have a chile. And again, very, very finely cut. I got a jalapeno because it's kind of, we can all find those in our grocery stores and it's going to give us the same kind of taste, so it's not going to be a problem. Then I have, this is about a cup of scallions that are chopped. It's about 6 scallions, but they come in all different sizes. So let's just, know that this is a lot of scallions that are going to go in here, very finely chopped again. And then our friend cilantro. This is a cup of finely, finely packed cilantro that's going to go in here. And again, that's all coming together and looking beautiful. And then I have a cup of tomatoes. And if you look at these tomatoes, these are fresh tomatoes, but they're so finely chopped that really you have a lot of the juice. So you still have the tomato. You can see that there's tomato in here, but it's very finely chopped. And that texture is going to be one of the big keys to making our beautiful pobre. So let that happen, let that come together. And then again, I let it sit because all the flavors marry, they integrate, they make beautiful things happen, and we'll have our sauce. So certainly we're going to use this on our empanadas because it's like super, super delicious there. Have the vinegar and the heat from the chili and the lightness from the scallion, the crunch, the cilantro, the tomato is amazing, and really, tomato really ties things together as tomatoes often do. So here's one way. I'm going to move these off so things look pretty for you here. One way I love to serve this is with avocados. So I've cut up 2 avocados here, and this is going to be a quick little side salad. And all we're going to do is put some of this on, mix it through, and it is like awesome. So you have this as a side salad for fish, when you're cooking fish and you want to serve something on the side, or chicken, just a little sparkly little element to the meal, a little surprise element to the meal. So here it is. So it's pobre, and again, try it on empanadas, try it on avocados, try it on tomatoes, try it on anything you think you'd like it on. It's fantastic. So that's our look at Chile. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Carol Yelverton. Until I see you again, stay hungry for travel.